Welcome back to the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. It's Ross. I have Calum on the line as usual, and we're joined by a very special guest today, William Tackett. William's going to talk to us about what it takes to win an ADCC Trials. We're having this conversation on the way into the West Coast Trials at the end of March, which William's going to be taking part in at 88 kilograms, and hopefully he's able to replicate some past success in the trials and therefore earn his place at the finals of the ADCC in August this year. So first off, William, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to see old friends and just have some conversation about some jiu-jitsu. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
William has some previous with Calum and I. He did a seminar at SBG Aberdeen where we both trained when he was over competing at Grapple Fest in the UK. So we had a great time training with William, and it's awesome to have him on the call. So, William, you've won the West Coast Trials before, 2022.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was back when I was competing in the 77 kilo division. So a little bit different this go around, competing at 88 kilos, and my two younger brothers will be at 77 this time. So it'll be a nice change up.
So always a big task on the day to win a trials in the US, possibly facing 7 or 8 matches. So it's a big topic, but we'll try and concentrate it down and focus on how you play it on the day and then focus how you prep going into the trials. So first off, on the day, when you know the size of the task that possibly awaits you, how are you playing that?
So like you said, the American trials are really tough to win on that day, but really all the trials nowadays are just super tough. I mean, we saw the Brazilian trials. There were some really crazy matches just over the weekend. And then Euro trials just recently when Tommy had to go through that bracket. I mean, there's just tough brackets all around the world nowadays. But the trials particularly is really difficult because of the rule set. But then also, like you said, the amount of matches. You know, like I think my division is capping out already at 256 competitors, which is just absurd. Like we're about, almost 4 weeks out from the event, and it's already capped off with almost 300 competitors each division, which is just crazy. So a lot of talent and a lot of people that you maybe haven't heard of yet. So people that are just on the come up have been training really hard and want to, beat that one big name. And that's all they're there to do, is just to make some waves. So you encounter people like that you've maybe never seen before, don't know their style, and they come at you really hard. So it's a tough day. It really is. You got a lot of matches, and you just got to take them out one at a time. I feel like what I've done mistakes in the past before maybe hasn't cost me to where I've lost the match, but definitely cost me where it's like, okay, the match was tougher than it needed to be, where I'm looking ahead. I'm looking already at the next guy, then looking at the next guy, looking at the next guy, and not necessarily worried about the match that I'm in at the moment. And you can encounter someone super tough. That actually happened to me at the most recent trials I competed at the East Coast Trials a few months back. My first time doing 88 kilo. I was doing great. I had some good matches, but I had Jason Rao next after the match that I was about to compete in. And I was already thinking about my match with Jason Rao and not really worrying about the match that I was in at the moment. So then in that point in time, now I'm like, okay, well, this guy's actually really good, but I'm thinking about Jason Rao, and I go out there and I have a war with this guy, harder than it probably needed to be, and I got injured. I hurt my neck in the match. So just taking the matches one at a time is something that I'm definitely going to take that approach this time, or at least attempt to. I tell myself that every time, but then, sometimes it gets ahead of me.
So on that approach of one at a time, do you differ early on in the tournament to later on in terms of you want to get the early ones out of the way as quick as possible?
That is ideal. Yeah, ideal to just go out there and just submit people in, a few minutes and minimize mat time, because then that helps minimize energy, minimize energy expenditure, all that stuff, and you can go out there and your next few matches fresh. But it's really hard to do that nowadays. Everyone is good. I always say that. I say that to all the people that I train at Fight Factory, all my teammates and all my students. And I say that to, anyone that asks the question. Everyone's good nowadays. So we had some people competing over the weekend in San Antonio, Texas. And one of them won one of the later on cards on the main card, he was amazing because, first match back in a few years. But another one of our younger competitors who's just a phenom. He beats everybody. Really good up and coming purple belt. He lost a match he got caught in an outside heel hook in like the last, few seconds or whatever. And I just told him, I was like, man, just how it goes. Everyone is good at this level. Because the first thing he said to me was like, oh, I lost to a nobody. And I'm like, no. No one is nobodies. Like, everyone is somebody nowadays. Like, everyone is good. It doesn't matter, like, you've never heard them before. It doesn't matter if maybe they don't even have any accomplishments yet. Everyone is good because of the access to information, right? Everyone can go to BJJ Fanatics or Jiu Jitsu X or some of these platforms that people put out individually, and you can go and study from the best in the world. So anyone can be good, even if they don't have that experience. Like Joseph Chen is a perfect example of someone like this that has used the information online to become really, really solid. No one really heard of him. And then all of a sudden he came to the US and was training a B team for a few weeks and started submitting people at the highest level. Has a win over Andrew, my younger brother. They're back and forth now. They're 1-1. It's crazy. He won the trials just recently, beating Tommy, Oliver Tauza, and Shazinski all in one go, which is insane. And that's someone that no one heard of, 3 years ago? So people like that can be just busting out on the scene at any moment. So it's ideal to go out there and just sub everyone quickly, like Taylor did at the 88 kilo trials. Just get like a combined time of 6 minutes or something. But that's really hard to do nowadays because everyone is just so high level. Even the guys that are not considered to be like that top tier are all really, really solid still.
Do you think it's still possible to go for subs in the early matches early on and try and win with leg locks? Or like you're saying, everyone's clued up on that and you just have to play every match kind of the same? Because I've seen in some trials, some guys go out and really try and get the early matches done in 30 seconds or so and go in for subs right away. But are you going to play it in terms of that? Like you're going to go for some submission-like positions early, or are you just going to play the same way throughout and try and wrestle a bit?
That's how I'm doing it right now. I'm just going to play the same strategy throughout because it's what I train that same strategy to work against the best guys. So if it can work against the best guys, then it can work against the next best guys. So I'm hoping that that's just what I can go out there and do is just hit the same thing on everyone. And I would love that to be just like a takedown, back take finish in a minute, but it's really hard to do that. Like in my East Coast Trials run, my first 2 matches were everyone could say, oh, those were easy matches or whatever, but they weren't. I had this one kid, he's maybe 19. He's a big kid, really strong. He trains a B team. He's just a really good up-and-coming competitor. That was my first match. He's a really good up-and-coming competitor. And then second match is a guy from the East Coast. It's a black belt, and he runs his own gym, and he competes, and he's competed for a long time. Cody actually had a match. My teammate, Cody Steele, had a match against him, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so, he's been competing at a high level for a long time, too. So then that's my second match. So I'm having matches with guys that are, really good, practically straight out of the gate. And then third match, I think I had Cameron, I don't know how to say his last name. He's the Canadian guy from New Wave, Filiarchak or something like that. That's how you say his last name. He's really, really solid. Another guy that wins the ADCC Opens and podiums at Worlds and stuff. So there's just no easy matches. So from right now, my goal going into West Coast Trials is just to hit exactly what I've been working on in the gym against everybody. If things go wrong and I have to change the game plan mid-match, for example, I'm using these as imaginary circumstances, but if I'm going for this certain leg lock against somebody and this guy just has way better leg locks than me, then I'm probably going to change my game plan to coming up and passing or something. Or if I'm trying to wrestle this dude and this guy's clearly a D1, NCAA champion or whatever, I'm not going to wrestle with him probably. I'm probably going to use maybe the takedowns to set up leg attacks or something. So I'm going to change it up depending if I run into some resistance, but ideally I would just go out there and do what I've been working in the gym.
Have you had a good look at the bracket? Of course you have. You know who's there, but do you have a sort of list of names in your head, maybe 8 to 10, that you're likely to face later on in the day? And although on the day it's one at a time, are any of these guys getting thought about just now?
Yeah. No, I have a good list of names, honestly. I haven't checked the actual competitor list in a while. I don't know up till date who is all in the division, but I'm assuming I'm just going to encounter a lot of the guys that did last time, like Jason Rao, Cameron. So, and then like Sebastian Rodriguez is going to be in the division, Clay Mayfield, David Garmo, and then like the guy that beat me last time, Elder Cruz. So obviously he's going to be at the top of my hit list because that's the guy that beat me. So got to take him like most seriously. But everyone has that potential to beat me, to be honest. You know, like Jason Rao and I had a pretty close match where I won 2-0. Didn't really expect to compete against him. I remembered we were on the same side of the bracket, but for some reason I just like assumed that he would maybe lose by points or something leading up to it. He had like a semi-tough side of the bracket, but he just like laser beamed everyone. He subbed Clay Mayfield in like maybe 30 seconds. So leading into that match, I was like, okay, well, I got to kind of change it up because I was purely wrestling for this camp. So now I got to like, okay, defend leg locks. So it just really depends. I think there's a lot of names on the list that could be really, really tough for me, but probably the number one on the list is like Elder Cruz. And then right below that, just because I've never faced him before and he's been on a tear, is Ryan Aiken. I'm sure he's going to be in the bracket as well. He's an outstanding competitor, winning a lot. He won the combat jiu-jitsu. He's won the main character. He's done well in the ADCC Opens. He beat Jacob Couch at the Chicago Open and won that, along with beating David Garmo. So he's a really tough competitor, and he made it to, I think, the round of 16 last time, losing to Elder Cruz. So he'll be tough as well. Just depends on what side of the bracket I'm on is who I'll face. But actually, after watching UFC Fight Pass last night, I kind of had a thought in my head. I was like, man, because Mason Fowler has lost. So he won the trials back in 2019, the West Coast Trials. He did that crazy Goga-Plata choke thing to win the finals, right? That was the year that was the first year I got on the podium when I took second place, and I lost to John Combs. So I remember he won the trials then, and he went out there and he beat Baby Monster. I think that's his nickname, BB Monster or something like that, from Fight Sports. He's that guy that has like the shaggy hair, super jacked, and competes MMA. So he beat that guy first round, and then he lost to Craig Jones in a questionable decision. So he did well, but then he got an invite for the next year, right? So then he got an invite, and then he lost to Owen O'Flanagan by heel hook. I think he won his first match, but I'm drawing a blank on who he beat first round. But he lost to Owen O'Flanagan second round. So I was thinking while watching the Fight Pass, maybe he might not get an invite. So I don't know if there's a fire under his butt or not, but he could do trials. Who knows? The registration hasn't capped off yet, so there's a chance that he might be in there as well. He looked a little bit big on Fight Pass last night fighting against Pedro Moreno, so maybe he'll do 99, maybe he won't do 88. But if he does do 88, that's going to be someone that will be probably at the top of my radar. Not that I'm looking past Elder Cruz because he's already beat me, but I think that Mason Fowler would be like maybe the toughest guy in that bracket if he hopped in. Just because he has wins over like some of the best guys in the sport. You know, he has like 2 or 3 wins over Craig Jones under SUG. He's beat so many high level guys. You know, he just beat Pedro Moreno, who is at the top of this game right now. You know, and Pedro Moreno looked great in that match. It's not like that. He was fighting a underprepared Pedro Moreno. Moreno looked amazing the whole match until really Fowler put it on at the end. So that will be a tough guy. And then, you know, other than that, like I said, there's that whole list of people that no one knows about. They're going to be really good. So I'm just going to try to keep it all the same and just try to chop them down once at a time.
When you're competing, how do you find the first match of the day?
The first match of the day, I feel like, is maybe it could be like a mix, right? It could be like really nerve-wracking, or you can almost feel like, wow, I don't even feel like competing right now. It really depends. I have several different emotions that I go through. Sometimes I'm really nervous for the first match because maybe the opponent or the pressure on the event, like, oh man, I can't go up first round, you know? But then other times, like, I feel like sleepy, like I'm yawning right before the match and I don't know what's going on. I think that's just due to not really having that adrenaline surge yet. So I try to get a solid warm up in. I try to get as good of a warm up as possible, really get some good sweat going. And then when I get out there, at least I can just keep the warm up going, keep that high pace, and then hopefully just pull out that first win, which kind of gets me going for the day, kind of like a good Kickstarter. But that first match is always a little bit tough. I've seen some of the best guys in the world like do terrible first round just because like they're like, oh, I was do really bad my first match. But then after that, and they just start killing people. So for me, I think maybe I do all right first round. I don't think I do terrible first round, but I think that I do get a little bit nervous sometimes for that first match.
Calum, can I bring you in there because you've encountered some different reactions to your first matches over the time?
Yeah. So, yeah, I've got quite a bad habit of throwing up before my first match. I don't know if that's something that's happened to you in the past, William. Yeah, I'd get quite nervous before. I found definitely getting a good warm-up in and getting the heart rate up the first time of the day in the warm-up as opposed to that first match definitely helps. It's just about having the discipline of doing that every time, depending on what competition you're doing, I think.
Yeah, I've thrown up one time competing, and I threw up after my first match.
Did you warm up before that match? Because I've had like a tough match, first match where I didn't warm up, and then I threw up after that because it was like such an adrenaline dump.
Yeah, I didn't warm up hard enough.
Yeah.
I warmed up, but it's not hard enough. It was against JJ Wilson. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he's a Bellator fighter. He's a young kid from Florida. He's really, really good. And he grew up kind of doing jiu-jitsu and MMA. So like he was competing in jiu-jitsu, but he was always like still doing striking and stuff. Kind of like that Sam Kilmer kid. And then he just super solid. And again, like no one really knows who he is. He's a good wrestler. He's good on top. He's like hard to submit, and he's just got like a good gas tank. So I fought him first round in one of the Jits King events, and I got on his back pretty early. I like wrestled him down, got on his back, and then I just kind of held him in a body triangle for a while without being able to submit him. So like my legs started getting a little bit tired, and then he scrambled out of the body triangle, and then started like trying to put some passing combos on me, and I was thankfully able to get on his legs. And then I was like trying to finish him in a toe hold, like trying to get the toe hold. And I was like ripping it too. And he was just like not tapping. And for some reason his foot just wasn't breaking. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is exhausting me trying to pull on this. So it was just like one thing after another. I got really tired. And then at the end of the match, I just remember walking over and being like, where's the trash can? And just puking like pretty hard. And then I felt fine after that. I felt like normal. But I think most of the time, if you throw up before a match, I think it could be due to like the amount of nerves with like the type of food that you eat. So like I would, to be honest, I'd recommend like if you get really nervous, like minimize the amount of food that goes in your stomach before your match, because that's going to really like those nerves with that food in your stomach, you're going to want to get it out, you know. It's kind of like just your body going into fight mode, you know, like it's like you're preparing for battle. So your body gets all these nerves and literally just tries to get rid of everything that it doesn't need, so that you can perform at your best. So I think that maybe minimizing what you eat before your match might help with that. But for me, I don't necessarily eat a lot before my matches. If I do eat something, I try to make like 2-3 hours before a match. So if I'm competing early in the morning, typically I wouldn't eat something. I would just like sip on some carbohydrates, just to kind of keep the energy levels up. But nothing too sweet, nothing like that. That's going to make me want to puke, you know, because I've definitely felt that before. Before a match being like, oh, I feel nauseous, like this is not fun, you know.
And do you only warm up once in the day? Because in ADCC Trials, I know some of the matches that can be like a couple hours in between. So if you're in that sort of situation, do you warm up again before the next match coming up, or do you just feel like that's you good for the day after the first match?
I warm up before every match. Yeah,
Okay.
I hit pretty much the same warm up before every match, just because I don't want to have that. Like I've had it before where like, you're like, okay, I got my first adrenaline dump out of the way. I'm fine. You don't warm up and then you go back out there, another adrenaline dump. So for me, I try to avoid that as much as I can. I try to just stay in the zone, keep my hoodie on, keep my sweats on, keep my headphones in during the duration between the matches. I just kind of hang out and just kind of like just focus and stay in the zone. And then whenever I hear like, okay, you're like maybe 4 or 5 matches to your match, then I like, go out into the hall or something and just kind of like move around, shadow wrestle, egg beaters with my legs, warm up my knees and stuff. Just try to take care of my body and get everything nice and warm. I like to be a little sweaty before I go out on the mat. If I'm a little bit sweaty, then I at least know I'm warm. I don't like going out there unless I broke a sweat.
What about food and drink on the day?
Yeah, that's a good question. That really depends on like when I'm competing. Because if I like so a lot of these super fight shows, they go at like, sometimes I've competed close to midnight, you know, so I definitely have to get some food in earlier that day. But if it's early, like doing an ADCC Trials event, like I remember, 2019 West Coast Trials, the first year that I podiumed, I think matches started at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and weigh-ins was like shortly before that. So cut a little bit of weight, made weight, and then just ate like something really small just to try to get me through the day. And then I just would like snack, but nothing crazy. Just like little bites of food. And then now I've switched to like sipping on the carbohydrates between matches because that can help keep my energy levels up. To be honest, liquid IV is a pretty good one. Liquid IV is good because it has like sugar in it. But the downside to liquid IV is it has sugar in it. So I don't drink liquid IV on the regular basis, but occasionally in between matches, I'll like sip on that. I like it better than Gatorade because it has higher electrolyte content. But now I'm sponsored by Ath Organics, so they send me their electrolyte packets that are just outstanding, but they don't have any sugar in them. So for like them, I'll mix that with like a Gatorade or something. I'll mix like the Ath Organic with Gatorade because then I still have the sugar content, and I don't have to worry about the electrolyte content because Gatorade doesn't really have much electrolytes. But if I add those packets that Ath Organics sends me, then it's perfect. So then I can get like the right amount of sodium in, magnesium, potassium, and I get some sugar to keep, my energy levels up. And I'll just sip on that because I don't like anything super sweet. I might even dilute it with some water just because I don't want like that. For me, I get like a cottony mouth when I get nervous. Mouth kind of gets dry. And then like with that sweet taste in your mouth, like your saliva feels sticky. And then I just feel like, oh, this kind of makes me feel nauseous a little bit. So I try to stay away from that. When I start getting nervous, that kind of happens. So I just try to dilute it with some water and sip on it. But as far as food goes, in the morning, I just try to get like maybe a protein source and then carbohydrates and some fats. Just like try to meet each category. Nothing crazy, but like if I'm competing at 9 in the morning, I'll maybe try to get some food in me about 7, maybe a little bit earlier if I can. But even then, I'd maybe rather sleep in a little bit and get the extra sleep just because I don't want to have to be up and nervous. I'd rather just be sleeping. But if I am eating that early in the morning, because maybe I have one match and that match is 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, then I would probably just have something really small. I'd maybe have like some egg whites, maybe some toast and some butter, something really simple. And then throughout the day, maybe snack on some rice cakes and, sip on that drink and maybe a protein shake halfway through the day or something. But like I said, nothing crazy. I'm trying to keep my stomach empty so I can perform pretty well, but I also want to have energy levels up so I can perform well. If it's like nighttime when I'm competing late in the evening, like super fight time, then that's all like pretty much as much food as I can get in during the day, without bloating myself and sticking to my traditional diet. And then more towards the evening time is when I would maybe like skip a meal and just replace it with a snack and then go into the match.
How do you keep your mindset right throughout the day? Calum spoke about gaps between matches, and on trials days, there can be half an hour, there can be a couple of hours between matches. So how do you keep your mind in the right place? How do you like staying in the arena? Do you go out of the arena? What do you kind of do to make sure that you can pace yourself through sort of like 8-9 hours worth of jiu-jitsu in a day? Yeah,
that's a good question too. To be honest, I really like how the ADCC in the US, the opens are in, or sorry, not the opens, the ADCC trials, they're in hotels. So a lot of times they're in like a casino, hotel combination. So I can just go upstairs to my room. It's, 5-10 minute walk, and I can just go up to my room and hang out if I have that 2-3 hours in between a match. Cause I normally get a bye cause, recent podiumed recently and I've won before. So normally I get the first round bye. So typically I don't start my day till a little bit later. So I do get to sleep in a little bit. And then first round, after you hit that first round, there's always a lot of time until I guess it would technically be my third round, but it's only my second match. The third round, it takes a while to go from like first to second and second to third because the brackets are so big. They have to run through so many matches. But then as you get closer to like your last few matches of the day or of the weekend, then now the gap gets a little bit more narrow. So maybe in the beginning, I'll just like compete. I'll maybe go back upstairs. I might even just take a shower, just kind of rinse off and lay in bed and just kind of like relax and, maybe hang out with like my teammates or something. And then after that, go back down, warm up, restart the process again. But if it's later in the day or later in the weekend when the matches are coming up a lot quicker, I'll just throw my hoodie on kind of over my eyes, put my headphones in, and just go lay down in like the hallway or something, and just like close my eyes and just try to like maybe take a nap or just listen to some music and just kind of stay in the zone. Mindset wise, I just try to for me, what I've always told myself when I compete, and it's tough to do this if you don't have a solid camp, because it's like you're lying to yourself. But if you have a solid camp, which I'm a firm believer in, that you need to put a lot of effort into your camp. I think that you can compete all you want and you can compete every weekend, but if you don't have solid camps in between competitions, like it's much harder to like win matches at the highest level, because you don't have as much time to strategize, work on new things and stuff like that. So I'm a firm believer in like a solid camp. So before matches, I'll always tell myself, I'll be like, all right, you did everything you could leading up to this. You've had a solid camp. You've had the best training possible. You're, in the best shape you could be in, all these things just to like kind of build my own confidence. And, everything now is just up till, it's in God's hands at this point. It's up to God. Nothing else I can do right now is going to change the outcome other than me staying focused. As long as I stay focused, we're good to go. So I just like tell myself that I stay in the zone, I stay focused, and I like maybe do a little bit of some like imagination where I'll run scenarios in my head of me winning matches and maybe get my hand raised and all this different things. I'll like visualize that in my head and just tell myself that over and over again. You've done whatever you can to be here. You've done the best you can. You're in the best shape. You've worked harder than everyone else here. It's, it's your time. It's your time. Just telling myself that and just kind of repeating that in my head and staying relaxed and trying to minimize the amount of energy that I expend in between matches, the better.
Calum, do you have any other questions you would like to ask William about on the day?
None pop into my head right now.
That's fine. So what we'll do is we'll bring the first part of the chat to a conclusion. Like and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff so you can get part 2, where we're going to talk to William Tackett about prepping for the ADCC Trials. How his prep's going for the upcoming West Coast Trials, how he feels about moving up to 88 kilograms. We'll be back soon with another episode of the Jiu Jitsu Oracle.